Hello, everypony, and welcome to another episode of the Pony Public Library. Here's your two hosts. My name is Captain Pio, and there's the other host, Dev Knights. Now, you guys probably noticed our new background change. Yep, that's our new banner. Say hello to our guest star today, Macon Mixx, the guy who sounds like bacon.
That would be me.
Yep, he made this nice little banner for us. It's been in the works for about, I think, a month now.
Just about.
Yeah, on and off.
And it's very much appreciated because Pio and I cannot draw well.
Well, whether I can or not is up for debate. I guess we'll let the listeners decide.
It seems alright with me, and your fans on EQD seem to like it.
Well, thank you. They do.
Alright, so could you tell us what story it is that we're going to be reading of yours tonight, though?
Well, today we're going to be reading one of my stories. It's called Her Illustrious Highness. Now, this is a story that's from a while back in the fandom. I actually wrote it last summer, back in July, I guess, so it's just shy of a year right now. And when it actually has a lot of Luna in it in the final chapter, and oh man, when I heard there was going to be a Luna episode, I was so scared. I'm like, oh, my story is ruined. And actually, it was wonderful because the Luna I wrote was just alike, or so much like the Luna in Luna Eclipsed. And that just made my day and made my story more popular, too. It got a lot more views after that.
Yeah, it's good to see you didn't let her fall into the whoopee category. You know what that is?
No. None of that.
Well,
poor sad Luna who cries in the back of the room. None of that. No way.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's been going on for I would have hated if they revealed it like that. Alright, so how'd you get the idea for the story? Sorry, Deb.
Well, the idea for this story came from a merch pony. A lot of people have seen this story and they're like, oh wow, what a great OC, Star Swirl, I just love your original character. Except that Star Swirl is not my original character. Star Swirl is a merch pony. She is a toy pony. In fact, I have her sitting on my bookshelf right now, looking absolutely adorable. We don't get very many fan fictions about merch ponies. In fact, almost none at all. This is the only one that I know of for this individual merch pony, and I can't think of any other merch ponies that have fanfics just off the top of my head. None are occurring to me. Maybe you know some. But there are a lot of great merch ponies out there, and not many have stories written about them. So this is about a merch pony.
Well, the fandom does have some disdain for them because their designs are all more or less recolors. And Star Swirl herself, I believe, is Rarity, I think. I don't know.
Star Swirl, actually, isn't that... There are a lot of the... let me start over. There are a lot of the merch ponies that are just recolors of each other. Star Swirl, not so much. She's pretty unique. She's got about 5 different hair colors and a cutie mark that's not on any other pony. She's actually a remake of a Generation 3 pony who had the same name, but a very different design. She actually looks like a lot like a Generation 1 pony as well, a pony called Princess Royal Blue. So that does show up in the story, believe it or not. That is in the story.
Do you take inspiration from the older generations then? Do you do research?
I do, and I did especially for this because I was writing a fan fiction about one of the toys. I figured I wanted to be grounded in the toy line, but in general, I do enjoy some of the older generation stuff. You know, it took me a while. To open my mind to that. I don't know. Have you seen the original pilot for the first generation TV show? Have either of you seen it? It's where the Sea Ponies song comes from.
What? Well, like YouTube.
I myself, I haven't seen it. I do remember back in the days when I was growing up that there would be a Generation 1 episode on TV, but I didn't watch it. I don't think I did, at least.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a long pony-free summer. I mean, it was a long time between the last episode of Season 1 and the first episode of Season 2. And in that time, I had to find something to fill it up. So I did watch that pilot episode, and I realized, hey, some of these older generation ponies, they're kind of cool too. Now, that's actually the only TV show I've seen from the older episodes, was just that single pilot. The others were not made by the same people. I just never have gotten around to watching them. But, the older generations have some good stuff in them too. And our generation was inspired by the older generations, so even though I didn't take the inspiration for this fan fiction directly from the older gen, the pony that I was writing about was inspired by the older generation, just like Applejack was, just like Fluttershy was, just like Rainbow Dash was, just like Twilight Sparkle was. They were all inspired by older generation ponies, and so even if you're not really writing about the older generation, it helps you to know some about it, to really feel the characters, I think.
Yeah, to be honest, we don't, and as bronies, for all our love and tolerance stuff, when our and progenitors, we don't pay them enough respect, I don't think, and it's kind of sad to see like a lot of the old school generation fans are being like ousted because they like it for some of that in some like YouTube videos.
I wish to give credit to Saberspark, who did the Ballad of the Brony YouTube series, which focused on the history of My Little Pony, and he himself watched episodes from each of the generations as best as he could without ripping his eyes out at 3.5. But yeah, he did speak up about a lot of the history behind the characters and such like you're talking about now, and I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I've seen that series also. And what was it called again?
Ballad of the Bronies.
That's right.
Brony, singular.
It was like epic long too, wasn't it? It was like 6 parts and
over an hour long.
Yep.
Yeah, over an hour. It was good though. Every minute of it. It was not all about history in that sense. There was a lot of other stuff too. That was just one of the segments.
Of course.
So, yeah, good stuff. Well, no, it's not too heavily inspired by that. I mean, it's very much friendship is magic. The story is. I don't think there's any taking away that this is definitely a G4 story. In fact, one of the main 6 that gets a casual mention in it, though none of the main 6 are actually characters. It's definitely the same world that they live in. So
that's always nice. What we don't get a lot of fanfics nowadays that are ambiguously canon. We had our last week's writer was, and we were just saying last week. It's really good to see people trying to, like, if they do use OCs, to let them stay in Equestria without having to change anything too big. That's what you wanted to do. You wanted to be a part of Equestria, sort of.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's this pony that has this potential. You know, there's literally nothing written about her. Even most of the merch ponies have something, right? They have a little card on the back of their box that says, "Honey Buzz likes to keep bees and eat honey." Something equally lame and obvious as that. But Star Swirl didn't even get that tagline. She got nothing. All she had was, pretty purple and pink striped hair and a galaxy on her flank. And that's all we had to go off of. And I just thought that wasn't fair.
Something that's been nagging me is you brought up the Lunar Eclipse episode, and because of that, Star Swirl the Bearded.
Yeah.
How did that affect you?
That was the hardest thing about that episode for me, but here's how I see it. And in fact, this wasn't my idea. I will say that one of the fans of this story brought this up, and I can't remember who it was. Dude, if you're out there, let me know who you are, because I've forgotten your name. But one of the fans of the story said, well, Star Swirl the Bearded, he was a famous ancient magician, maybe it's popular to name your kids after him, and I just had to go with that, because that's about as good as it's going to get, because I don't think there's any other way to retcon that.
Well,
so it's probably just named after him.
Works.
It does work in universe, but for an out-of-universe explanation, you gotta remember that the Hasbro, early on, when they designed the initial toys, they didn't really expect anyone to, do all this. Our Bearded probably came a lot later. Back in universe, though. Yeah, that is
Well,
a very good explanation for it.
a lot of the season 2 stories were written a long time ago, written while we were watching season 1, with heavy influence from Lauren and some of the original creators. So the Luna Eclipse episode was probably written well before my story was, but it didn't air till about 2.5, almost 3 months later. So I felt like mine was first, but I really know it wasn't. But I had no way to know what they.
Yeah.
That, because then, what about the Derpy episode? That was.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, maybe they. I mean, they could have just like added that in later, but I mean, it feels like it was planned. Like,
well, animation is a much later step than the writing is, so it could be a month or two between writing and animation, possibly longer. I have no idea. So it could be very easily added in the animation stage, but not be there in the writing.
Ah, alright, that makes sense.
I know that Lauren actually said that she was actually a part of the season 2 finale and writing that. And, she actually left during the summer. So that was almost a whole year in the process from when she started writing it to when it became on the screen. So
she to come back, though.
Yeah, she is the one of the contacts if they that they can go to and propose an idea. I can't remember what her title is. It's she
executive producer, I think.
Yeah, executive producer or something. She got a title just so that she could come back easily, or she could monitor what they're doing if she wanted to.
Yep. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I guess we can always verify that later. So some pony correct me if I'm wrong about it, and if we're wrong about our time things.
Well, we got BronyCon. You can ask.
Oh yeah, you coming to? Oh yeah, by the way, Macon. Well, you live in Kentucky. It's a little far, but you going to BronyCon?
No, I will not be making it to. Uh-oh, did you hear that? I'm sorry. My phone is giving me alerts. No, I will not be making it to BronyCon. I'm sad about that, but I have a first day at a new job on the Monday after BronyCon, and the last day at an old job on the Friday before, and there's just no way to make it to New York in between those two, so just won't happen.
There's always next year, and there's this con.
Well, there's
meetups, right?
Well, I was actually at a meetup just last weekend, and we were talking about that, and he said, everyone said that there was never going to be a BronyCon like the first BronyCon. Nothing could ever top that. It could never get better. Anything else would always be something less. But then we get to this year, and it's really obvious that this year's BronyCon is going to be better than last year's. So, it could be that next year's is going to be even better yet. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, Europe is getting a few too soon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be attending
There's
any
a major one.
Well, there are also
No.
other... Sorry.
Not for me. For me, it's just local meetups right now.
Okay.
I won't be at Everfree or BronyCon, either one. So.
Well, there's TrotCon and other stuff that happen in the US.
There is. I think Canterlot Gardens may be the closest one to me. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. My phone keeps beeping at me. I'll shut it up.
Further up north than BronyCon? Oh.
I'm not exactly sure. I've kind of lost track of where they all are. I have kind of lost track. But I'm actually in Kansas, so it's kind of the middle of nowhere, I'm afraid.
Kansas, wrong. And I was reading someone else's.
Wrong K-State. That's all right.
I got
We're getting a bit off topic with the interview here, I believe.
This isn't art. What just happened? Alright, you should hear no more beeps from my phone.
No, that's fine.
Well, so shall we get on with the reading? Are there any more questions?
Well, I've got loads of questions. How dare you?
Sorry, I have been talking most of the time, haven't I? Go on ahead.
How dare you, Pyle? Anyway, there's lots of
I've heard from some of the other Friendship is Madness streams that the only way to shut him up is to burp at him.
Only Striker does that, and he barely does that anymore.
Anyway,
Actually,
All right, girl, this call. Where is he?
no, we're not bringing Stryker here. This is not Friendship is Madness because we didn't want it to be Friendship is Madness. When the minute it starts going that, well, I'm gone.
Okay. All right, Dev Knights, this is all your show. Let me shut up for a while.
Well, no, you're supposed to be talking because I'm interviewing you. Wahaha. Anyway, okay, yeah. We haven't touched anything about your artwork. And that's half of who you are in the Pony universe. So, did my internet disturb?
Not.
Okay, sorry.
It might have. We didn't hear you if you said something.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So, we didn't touch anything about your artwork. What gives you inspiration for your artwork?
Well, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, of course.
Yeah, but a lot of it's a lot of OCs.
Oh, it is. A lot of it's a lot of OCs. And in fact, at the let's see, I started in this fandom. I first started hearing about it in maybe the very beginning of March. And it was popping up on certain image boards that I won't mention a lot. And I was just, what's with this? What's with this? Well, one day I was giving a presentation, and I was making a totally sarcastic point that something was just about as likely as flying horses with rainbows coming out of their butts. And I took a picture of that on the boards. So I copied one off, and I put it in my presentation. Well, I'm giving this presentation to a room full of professional graduate students, right? Professional students and grad students. And one of my best friends just stands up when I get to the slide, stands up in the middle of class, over 100 people. He stands up and he shouts, "I love that show!" in the middle of class. And I thought, oh dear God, what have I done? And so, all right, then he sits down, and everyone stops laughing eventually. And after I finish with my presentation, I talk with my friend later, and I'm like, dude, are you serious, or are you just making fun of it? He's like, no, actually, I really do like it. You should watch it. And so I did, and it was awesome, and it was so accessible and relevant. And that's going to sound really silly to talk about a kids show, but it's not just talking about things that matter only to kids. It's talking about, putting your friends before things. Don't lose sight of your goals. Don't allow yourself to be too scared to do things. Mm-hmm. Things that apply to all of us. And I wanted to, insert myself into that world. Self-insertion, here it comes. Well, I found out that a lot of other people had done that too, and the way they had done that was sometimes really darn cool. They had created stories for themselves and their own interaction with the characters, and in ways that was fascinating to me. They'd created idealized versions of themselves as their little OC ponies, or perhaps they're not versions of themselves, perhaps they're just an idealized version of a character, an ideal, and represented as a character. And I just thought that was cool, so I started collecting them. I started a group up on DeviantArt called MLP Original Ponies. It was, I'm not sure if it still is, it may be the largest OC pony group on DeviantArt. It's got about 2,000 members, I think. I don't know exactly. And, I just started that over the summer, and it grew, and people liked it, because I wasn't the only person who enjoyed seeing other people's stories, and it was just a lot of fun for me, seeing how different people interpret their own characters in this idealized world. So I just really enjoy that, and I want to help them realize their characters, and I want to share my characters too. So that's pretty much it.
And that group is also how I met you, and how we got that Miss Erica Pitt's contest going.
It is. Erica Pitt, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of the animators on My Little Pony. At least she was on the first season. Is she still with the show? Do you know?
No, she is not. She's not. She's working on Aquabats right now.
Okay, well, if you watch the credits on the first season, you see her name there. It's Erica Pitt. And she did a contest with our OC group, recruiting fans to draw her OC, and she picked one of them and had him on display at a convention in
Ireland.
Ireland?
Dublin.
Yeah, I thought so. Dublin. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool deal.
That will also be. Oh, sorry, were you done? Okay. And also and the winner of that contest was how her OC was going to be portrayed in the Friendship is Madness upcoming animated series.
Mm-hmm.
And also the winner also gets to be an animator on there.
Oh,
Work with Erica Pitt. Although she won't be doing animation there, she'll be doing voice work because give her some more time in the spotlight. We didn't really give her a very large window because not a month later, we interviewed Nicole Oliver, who is Princess Celestia and Cherylee's voice. So she kind of got overshadowed a little quickly. Also, the quality of the interview wasn't that great. But yeah, you'll see more from us and her in the future.
Very cool.
So, okay. I want to ask you, how do you design your thing? Because with the, for example, our current banner that you just created for us, especially for me, all I said was, I didn't actually have an OC. And I just said, well, could you make one for me? I do some archery, I'm a physicist and stuff. How did you go about creating my OC?
Well, it's a dangerous request asking me to make an OC for you. You're not the only person, and you're not going to be the last person. I've maybe made about a dozen for people who have asked me to make them for them, and I really enjoy it. It just starts with, what are some of your physical characteristics? Do you like those things? And if you don't, then we'll change them. Some people's like, well, I'm taller, well, I'm shorter, and so I'll incorporate that into their OC. Unless they don't like that about themselves, in which I just throw it out. This is about an idealized version of you. So I start with that. Start with what are some basic things about you. What are you good at? What do you really enjoy? Incorporate that into the character. A lot of it does come down to color and balance. I do try to usually stick with color pairings that are shown in the show, unless I have a specific request or specific reason not to do that. You see a lot of people drawing OCs, and they are just rainbow-maned monsters with fishnet stockings and bat wings, and though bat wings are now canon, they're still in poor taste, I think, for the most part. You just end up with some crazy stuff. I try to really keep it in the style of the show. I try to make it represent the person who it's supposed to represent, as if it's supposed to be a what are people calling him? What did the furries call him? Pony-sonas. There we go. If it's supposed to be a pony-sona, I try to really make it represent the person. Pick colors that go with the show, and then the cutie mark is really where it's all at. That's, I think, for yours. I was like, well. Originally, Pyote had told me chemistry, and so I'd gone totally on the wrong track. Thank you very much, by the way.
Sure.
But we got that corrected. Archery and physics, it kind of came together like a parabola and aiming at a target. I'm sure that's not the kind of physics you work with, but there's some classical Newtonian physics there in your cutie mark, and I think it works. So I picked the main color. Normally, like I said, I do solid colors because that's what the show shows most. But since I had a target for your cutie mark, it just made sense to have a red and white striped mane. It goes with the target. I mean, it just works perfectly for that.
Okay.
So that was the process that went into that one.
And then how do you work on the background? Because that is also a big thing, because you have all that blank space.
A lot of blank space.
How do you go about thinking, well, I mean, like, we're to the PonyPublicLibrary, so we have to be in a library, but, so there's books, but what gave you the idea for the stained glass window?
Well, the idea for the stained glass window comes from the show itself, because the show features, in the palace especially, a lot of stained glass windows. And then there's kind of the art style to the original intro from the season 1, The original, very first show had the intro there that kind of had that art style that was almost blocky, almost stained glass. In the Discord episodes, there's a lot of stained glass. And even in the Gala episode, you have a little bit of stained glass, and that's also referenced in the fic we're going to read a little bit about. And so it's a very common motif in the show, and so just trying to stick with what was on the show. When I was making the stained glass, I had this great idea, oh, well, I can make light streaming in through the stained glass, and if I put the stained glass together in just the right way, the light streaming in will overlay each other, will overlap to create a rainbow effect. And, oh gosh, I worked too hard on that. I should not have put so much energy into that, but I eventually got the colors right so that they overlap to form a rainbow in the light stream, so it worked, eventually.
Yeah, it turned out pretty cool.
I think so.
If I could add on to that one other thing, this probably isn't my place to say anything here, but the original reference pictures I gave to Macon, they were pictures of my the really big public library of my hometown. That's we kind of have this big great hall sort of room. The original design was something like that.
And it's funny because even before you had sent me those pictures, I had already sketched them out on just on paper, and I had used a different kind of ceiling than they had, but I already had the great hall with, you know, bookshelves off to the side already kind of going, and just really the only thing I changed was instead of a pointed ceiling, I used a barrel vault. So that's really about the only thing that those pictures changed. It's funny how we were just thinking the same thing already there.
Yeah, it all worked out.
It did. You know, if you really want to look at backgrounds and see how backgrounds are done, I think my best background was one I did for a piece called Macon Mixx Apothecary. It was one I did for my own OC, and it was him in a pharmacy. And when I was doing that, one thing that you notice when you look at the backgrounds in the show, all of the characters are outlined, but the objects in the background don't have an outline. And you can't see it so well in the image I made for the show. It's not really prominent in that banner. But if you look at the pic I made called Macon Mixx's Apothecary, it's definitely prominent in that one. So I think that's the background's best in that. In fact, I actually had several people request that I make the background available separately, so I did, so they could use it.
So you say that you have people asking for your artwork. Are you open to commissions?
You know, I have been in the past, but when I was doing requests and commissions for free, I got so many that I couldn't possibly do them. And then when I said, whoa, I can't do this many, and I put a price tag on them, then I got so few that it's like, well, I now I don't even have enough. So I will do requests from time to time. What I've just kind of gone back to is you can request anything, but that's not a promise that I'll draw it. I'm only going to do the ones that really appeal to me, the ones that are unique and interesting. One time someone requested, let's see, Celestia student, the immortal Alicorn, who was also friends with Twilight, and was soul bonded with a trans-dimensional dragon. And you know what? That one just struck me as so funny, I had to do it. But for the most part, that kind of request doesn't get in. I just do the ones that really appeal to me. That one was so over the top. It appealed to me for being so over the top. But for the most part, I just do the same ones.
Was it on purpose?
What was that?
Was it on purpose, or did they want you to make like a big troll thing?
You know, I feel bad for being so mean about it, but I think they were totally legitimately serious.
It's alright.
Yeah, I'm a bad pony. I hope they don't hear this.
Well, it's alright. Not everyone is, that great at making OCs, and sometimes, if they got good writing skill, you can turn a Mary Sue into someone who's actually at least an acceptable character. And then, well, sometimes they're just supposed to be in their own universe. There's nothing wrong with wish fulfillment as long as you don't try and push.
No, there isn't. Not at all.
Yeah, as long as you don't try and push it on others.
Nope.
When you try that, you need to balance it out a little bit, but I'm sure it's fine for now.
No.
Okay.
Maybe with less specific with it. thing. But I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Since we're back onto OCs and stuff, you mentioned that you have an OC. Can you
I do.
go through the process or describe why you think your OC represents you?
Well, I originally made this character to be. I originally made this character as a. Oh goodness, is my phone beeping again? I'm sorry, I thought I set that off. Okay. I originally made this character to be kind of like a pony sona, you know, because that was definitely the in thing when I was doing it. It was an earlier point in the fandom, and that was very popular at that time. That kind of fell out of favor, but actually I realized it was stupid before it fell out of favor. So I've not really written the stories about this character as stories about me. Instead, I've just let the character be his own character. But he's this sweet little yellow unicorn, and he's all about finding magical plants to help heal people and mix up potions and stuff. And he's a healer, and he does it through a medium of medicinal plants and that sort of thing, which obviously represents me being I'm a pharmacy student. So anyhow. That's sort of how that happened, but I've let him be his own character and not be me entirely, though I do use his name for my login names in the Ponyverse.
Well. Alright, so any more questions before we get started on this fic?
Is there any final things you would like to say, Macon, before we go over to reading your fic?
Sure. I think one thing that is cool to me is how many people in this community are telling their own story, whether that's through art or whether that's through fan fiction. Your story is something unique and cool, and I want to hear it, and I think a lot of other people do too. Please don't write a Mary Sue or Gary Stu story. We don't want to hear about your trans-dimensional alicorn who's best friends with Twilight and another student, Celestia.
Okay, let's tone that down a little bit so we don't get...
Yeah, well, you're right. But we want, but I do want to hear your story. How would you live in this world if you were one of the ponies, or maybe not you, maybe some ideal character? How would they survive? You know, we hear the same stories over and over. I want to hear a new one once in a while. There's lots of mediums to get involved. You can do vectors for very cheap or free. Inkscape is the program I use for most of my vectors. You can get very inexpensive drawing tablets now for $50 or less. Obviously, it's not a bamboo, but it's something, and I've used them, and I really enjoy having them. You can get animation software. If you're willing to get version 7 instead of version 8, you can get Anime Studio Pro for $15. I think is what I paid for it. And I've done 3 or 4 animations with that. I think only one of them is on my DeviantArt account. But there's so many different ways to express yourself. It's great, and you should do it. I mean, your story is part of this fandom story, and let it be told.
Oh,
yep.
One last question before we do this. You got a favorite pony on the show?
Oh, absolutely. Applejack is best pony.
Alright. We should start keeping track of this, Dev. We gotta have a tally somewhere.
Why do you say Applejack is best pony for all of the listeners?
Well, I will just say that you don't really need a tally because Applejack is the best, and there's no reason to vote because she's just the best. There's nothing else to it. But why is Applejack best? I would say that you've heard of the mythical 4-episode limit. Once you've seen 4 episodes, you're in. There's no escaping once you've seen 4. Well, I watched them in order. So the 4th episode I saw was Applebuck season, and it is an Applejack episode, and I've just been in love with her from that moment. And just her absolute silliness, but despite how silly she is, she loves her family, and she loves her friends, and she wants to do right by them. And I just think that's fantastic. I really do. So that's it.
Okay. whilst Pyro is busy assigning voices for the pick, I do have a follow-up question that I always love to ask. Is
Okay.
Applejack may be your favorite pony, but which one do you connect most with?
As much as I hate to admit it, it's Twilight Sparkle. Because I have lists upon lists. I have, in my life, made lists of the lists I need to make. I can't say I do it very often, but I have done it. And that alone, I think, makes me most like Twilight Sparkle. So, that is very much a thing.